what we did was track the trend in expenditure and gambling in every local government area of New South Wales in every month over a period of several years, looking at the relationship between gambling expenditure and crime. We didn't just, though, look at that correlation. We also made quite a serious effort to control for any other factor that might be responsible. So we controlled for seasonal effects, and we controlled for the effect of changes in the economic conditions in the country. And after we'd washed out all those other variables, all those other factors that might influence the results, we still found this strong relationship, which you've described very well. 10% increase in gambling expenditure on average produces another 1,400 assaults and many other crimes as well. So this is the first time, we've known for a long time that individual offenders, individual people who are addicted to gambling, readily admit to committing crime to raise money to pay their gambling debts. This is the first time we've added up the relationship to see how much of this gambling expenditure is generating in terms of crime.
So you highlight gambling on poker machines specifically. Are pokies different to other forms of gambling in their link to increased crime?
I don't think so. We picked the poker machines because the electronic gaming machines, as they're technically called, are responsible for about 86% of all the gambling revenue in Australia. The others, the online gambling, they're all growing, but they're nowhere near as big a consumer of gambling funds as the poker machines are, which are operating 7 days a week, in some cases almost 24 hours a day, and huge amounts of money are going into those machines. It's enormously profitable for clubs and pubs to have these machines.
And what were the most significant crimes that gamblers commit, Donald?
Well, the most potent effect was actually with assault. Every time the gambling expenditure goes up by 10%, we get an additional 4,500 assaults, which is a big worry. We've already got enough problems with domestic assault without seeing increases in assault occurring. We'd like to see that drop. But there are widespread effects across break and enter, across motor vehicle theft, even fraud, which is a big growth area. People are just racking up debts they cannot afford to pay, and as a result, resorting to crime to fund the gambling debts they've accrued. I should say that, of course, the vast majority of gamblers are not criminals. They're not resorting to crime, but there's a small percentage who consume enormous amounts of money, put enormous amounts of money into poker machines. And of course, they end up losing that money and then having to pay it back in some way, shape or form.
These findings, of course, are alarming for people who don't gamble, aren't they?
Well, I think that's right. And for a long time, we've been worrying principally about the families of gamblers, families of those who are addicted to gambling. I guess what this study shows is it affects the entire community. People who don't even gamble might be at risk of having their houses broken into by someone who's desperate to pay a gambling debt. So it's just one headache we don't need. We really need to strike a better balance between the legitimate right of people to gamble if they're using their own money and not relying on any theft or crime to raise it, and the general interest of the community in not having people who are addicted to gambling breaking into their homes and stealing stuff to pay their gambling debts.